I know it's been a while since I gave you all an update on my on-again, off-again relationship with Yamaha, so let's find out if we have kissed and made up as we review their Aventage A4A home theater receiver. While the A4A is not quite the entry point to Yamaha's Aventage line, that's the A2A, it is probably the option most of you are going to start with. This is a 7.2 channel Dolby Atmos and DTS:X enabled receiver, and officially it has full support for 8K 60 and 4K 120 content, including numerous gaming features. It produces 110 watts per channel, albeit in stereo. Obviously, power is likely to drop as you add more speakers, but how much, it's difficult to say because neither Yamaha's website nor their manual state what the power rating is with all channels driven. The A4A supports most forms of HDR, including Dolby Vision. Lower quality video signals such as HD can also be upscaled to 8K 60, one of the many features that were pending a firmware update back when we reviewed the costlier A8A. Thankfully, all of the promised updates are now live and fully functional. So if you'd like to know more about all of the specs of the A4A, we're going to leave you a link down below. Now, setup of a Yamaha receiver can be as simple or as complicated as you wish. Yamaha is unique because it gives users the options to go with a mostly automatic setup or a fully manual one, which is where most receivers kind of come up short. We paired the Yamaha with three very different surround sound setups: our Klipsch Cornwall theater setup, Triangle's Borea tower speakers, and KRISTI'S favorite, the Concept 50s from KRISTI'S. All three setups worked well with the Yamaha, but there is a catch when it comes to the A4A and Dolby Atmos. Now, in this room, we can accommodate Dolby Atmos setups up to 7.1.2 or 5.1.4. However, when it comes to the Yamaha, you are limited to 5.1.2. Now, this isn't a deal breaker for me because the 5.1.2 performance of the Yamaha is exceptional. But if you want to enjoy Atmos and have back channels or more overhead Atmos speakers, you're going to have to look at the costlier A6A or A8A. But if the budget isn't available, when not listening to Atmos content, you can enjoy 7.1 content with the A4A. Yamaha's ability to perform a full manual setup is just one of the ways it sets itself apart from the pack. Whenever possible, I like to do a full manual setup with my receivers. One area Yamaha still falls behind, however, is in their internal menus. These haven't really changed since our 3080 review almost 3 years ago, which, in my opinion, is a missed opportunity. Yes, the menus are functional, just not very sexy. Despite the lack of innovation when it comes to the GUI, the level of customization Yamaha gives their customers, even at the A4A's lower price point, is impressive. But for home theater newbies, it can be a lot to digest. Whether or not you decide to go full mad scientist or use Yamaha's auto room correction procedure, Wipeout, the results are going to be actually pretty similar. So let's talk about sound. Ideally, no component should color the sound to such a degree that it could be seen as putting its own spin on the artist's intent. And to that end, the A4A succeeds. It's more or less neutral. Some might even say boring, but in a good way. Whether or not we were listening to the Klipsch, Q-Acoustic, or Triangle speakers, the A4A did not add nor subtract anything from their inherent sound, especially in Wipeout's most neutral preset. So no noticeable house curve or boosted bass or treble in any way, the way Odyssey or even Direct sometimes does. Of course, you can dial the bass or treble to taste, just know that the Yamaha isn't going to do that for you automatically. Now, where this focus on neutrality may be an issue for some of you is in the dialogue and dynamics department. For me, dialogue was always intelligible, even with the dialogue aids turned off. Now, the Yamaha definitely keeps actors planted in the mix versus letting them, say, step forward the way other receivers like the RZ50 does. The subtle lack of top-end emphasis was more problematic for KRISTI, however, resulting in less intelligible dialogue. I experimented with the A4A's dialogue settings and found a click or two improved things slightly, but anything beyond that kind of resulted in an unnatural or distorted sound. That smoother upper mid-range and top end also means that dynamic swings and action hits may lack some of the impact you might expect. For example, bullet ricochets and musical hits lacked a bit of edge and were more subdued. In terms of surround sound performance, the Yamaha was very even keel, balancing movement and the placement of action across all of our connected speakers exceptionally well. Transitions front to back, side to side, and overhead were terrific, so no gaps as the action unfolded throughout our room. Despite my back channels remaining silent when listening to true Atmos content, the A4A did an exceptional job at spreading the sound around, that I honestly didn't miss them. For those of you concerned with the receiver's stereo performance, I tested the A4A's preamp outputs with my Crown and Audiolab amplifiers to see how they sounded compared to the Yamaha's internal amplification. And the verdict is, it's good. I wouldn't call the difference night and day. While the third-party amps brought out a little bit more focus, low-end detail, and control, it wasn't anything too crazy. So no, I don't think that you need a separate amplifier unless your speakers are super inefficient and have a nominal impedance below, say, 6 ohms. If you have 4 ohm speakers, you should probably look up market or at least use a separate amplifier because the A4A prefers a 6 to 8 ohm speaker. Moving on to video switching, it was smooth and precise. Gaming at 4K resolutions or at 120 frames per second worked just fine. Granted, I'm not the world's most premier gamer, so for me, the Yamaha more than passed all of my gaming tests. I really enjoyed playing the latest Modern Warfare 2 campaign because the surround mixing on that game is insane. Now, when it comes to comparisons, here's where things get interesting. The A4A, it's very well built and incredibly stylish for a receiver. Hovering just over $1,600, the A4A isn't what I would call budget, but given its feature set, it's far from unobtainable. Compared to our reference Onkyo RZ50, there is a lot to like, and the Yamaha's full multi-band manual parametric EQ helps to keep it competitive. But PEQ aside, the A4A is outclassed by the Onkyo when it comes to value for money. In 2023, the Onkyo RZ50 remains the value leader. The RZ50 gives you more channels of amplification and DIAC for about the same cost as the A4A. When viewing films like Top Gun Maverick, the RZ50 is more exciting. But if you value absolute neutrality to the source and love the ability to tinker and make a product your very own, the Yamaha A4A, or any Aventage receiver for that matter, delivers. Compared to options like the Marantz Cinema 60, which, full disclosure, we have not reviewed yet, it's likely going to come down to personal taste which you prefer. Based on my experience with the costlier Cinema 50, though, the 60 will no doubt sound great, and thanks to its nicer menus, it's going to give you a better overall user experience compared to the Yamaha, but it will never have the 50's upcoming features like DIAC, so you're going to have to rely on Odyssey. Both the Yamaha and Marantz are built to a high standard and offer similar levels of power output and performance, so you're just going to have to decide which one's best for you. Compared to the Denon X2800H, the Yamaha A4A is more powerful and will offer more by way of features and performance, but those upgrades do come at a price. Now, I haven't listened to the 2800H, but the slightly more powerful and maybe more comparable 3800H was impressive. All that said, I think I would side with Yamaha over Denon, but that's just me. As for my relationship status, when it comes to Yamaha, I am confident our break is over and I am back to being a fan. While the A8A was not what I had come to expect from Yamaha, which is a brand I have historically loved, what can I say? New year, new Yamaha? The A4A delivers on the promises the A8A initially failed to live up to and earns my recommendation because it is a solid buy and a damn good sounding receiver. So that's it. That is now my review of Yamaha's Aventage A4A home theater receiver. But before we go, where are you at with it?
Well, you may be off your relationship hiatus with Yamaha, but I think I am still team Onkyo and Marantz over here. Okay. At least when it comes to the receivers.
Okay.
I mean, I typically love Yamaha's integrated amplifiers. But I don't know, there's something about the new Aventage receivers, I guess are just a little too neutral for my personal taste.
Gotcha.
Out of the three brands, Onkyo, Marantz, and Yamaha, the Onkyo especially, I feel is more intelligible, so dialogue was way easier to discern. And that more subtle top-end emphasis that you mentioned in the review is what really stood out to me the most. Because of that, I think it made difficult to understand mixes even, more harder to understand. Through
the Yamaha?
Yeah, and some of those scenes were just less impactful. And, this is, again, something you discussed in the review.
Yeah.
Specific examples I can think of, there were moments in both the movie Elvis and in Top Gun where, for example, the flash of a camera bulb in Elvis or the firing of bullets, like went through some of those fighter jet scenes, they just felt more muffled through the Yamaha.
Yeah, a little bit.
And even with speakers like the Q Acoustic Concept 50s, which I find to be extremely intelligible, and it's one of the things I love the most about them, just didn't quite have that with the Yamaha.
They didn't have that snap.
I mean, you could still hear them. I'm not saying you can't, it's not like you can't understand anything or you're not going to hear those, trailing bullets firing or whatever, like in Top Gun. That's not what I'm saying. They just weren't as noticeable.
Yeah, I would agree. And when we had these two receivers A-B'd and we had them level matched and everything on the same exact speakers.
He's talking about the RZ50.
The RZ50 and the Yamaha, had everything dialed in, wipeout versus, Dirac, and everything being as equal as possible through the same speakers. And that is one thing that I noticed. I applaud Yamaha for their just like no holds barred neutrality. But when it comes time to take things to 11, the excitement factor, the grab you factor is just a little bit higher with the Onkyo. It's just a little bit more arresting. And you are free to debate me in the comments over whether or not that's true to the source material, because you have an argument there. You do. And it just comes down to personal preference. That for me, especially with Elvis and like those bulb flashes, those were mixed to sound violent. Those were mixed to sound like he was being fired upon. You know what I mean? And the Onkyo delivered that shock, that arresting, that crack,
sound.
And the Yamaha, it was all there, and you could argue is actually maybe a little bit more textural versus snappy.
Ew, I would disagree.
Well, no, I think that you heard more of the trailing edges of like the bulb flash and then that little bit of this, but it lacked the crack. So it comes down to, are you more trailing edges or are you point of impact? For me, I think that's the biggest difference here.
Yeah, I mean, like with a lot of things in the home audio space, it's just really going to come down to your personal preference. And not trying to say that one receiver is better than another. I'm just pointing out to you what it was that I heard. And if you've watched the channel on a regular basis, you know that I struggle with dialogue clarity at times. And so these are the things that are important to me and would be a determining factor when it comes to deciding product A versus product B if I'm, shopping on the market.
Sure.
If you are a huge Yamaha fan and you feel like this gives you everything, that Yamaha sound gives you everything you're looking for, then stand behind that. And there's nothing wrong with feeling that way. No,
and for the first time, maybe in about 2 years, we would totally back up your play there. Like in the past, I would have said, maybe wait until all the firmware updates, maybe wait until they finally deliver these things that they're promising you, but that they're charging you for now. They're all there now. So as far as I'm concerned, personal preference aside, Yamaha's totally valid. It's a totally valid option now. Sure. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is.
Yeah.
And I would like to give them props. Like the Aventage line is so beautiful. Besides the new Marantz cinema direction of that sort of that new design language they've come to market with, Yamaha to me makes they still, I don't care whether you're talking about integrated amps or an AV receiver, they make some of the most beautiful products on the market, and I give them major props for that. Yeah, I mean, I think it just kind of comes down to personal taste. I did want to bring up one other receiver as an option if you're looking to save just a tiny bit more money. The Onkyo NR7100.
Oh, right.
Is an option for you.
Right.
It's $1,300 roughly and I think you said the Yamaha's a little closer to 17.
Yeah.
So you can save some money there. It's a 9.2 channel receiver, 100 watts into 8 ohms. So it's a little bit less powerful, but probably you wouldn't notice it very
not enough
much.
to matter.
It's got Dolby DTS surround sound. It's got Dirac Live, THX certified. There's HDMI 7:2. Supports 4K 60 and
we'll do 8K 60 and 4K 120. Yeah.
So two of the outputs support 8K 60 and 4K 120. With HDMI 2.1. Yeah. So anyway, so it's another option to consider, like if you just can't quite spring for the cost of the
Yamaha.
Onkyo RZ50, or the Yamaha is also outside of your budget. That's one that I would point you to.
Absolutely. And don't believe you'll have the channel limitations of the A4A either. So there's that. Anything else?
Nope.
All right, guys. That is now our review of Yamaha's A4A Aventage home theater receiver. What do you guys think? Let us know down in the comments below. And my question of the day for you is simple. Now that Yamaha has had all of their firmware updates, it's a fully realized product, who makes the best receiver on the market in 2023? I think this is going to be a good one. Anyway, if you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Go ahead and ring that bell so that you're notified when new videos come out. If you use any of the links that Kristi left for you down below, know that that's a great way that you have continued to show your support for this channel and the work that we do here. And both of us thank you very much for doing that. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile. And that's it for us today. So remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Happy New Year again. We'll see you on the next video. Bye.